I would like to call the order of the Board of Trustees meeting for March 5th, 2019. Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, I would like to welcome everybody on a night that doesn't feel much like it's March. I started to say December, knowing more by what it feels like. So, welcome this evening. The building is at least warmer because we haven't had the heat working correctly for 2 days now. Approximately a year and a half old. But we think we have at least where it's sort of functioning like an exchanger is always cold air indirectly, so given how chilly it's been the last 2 days, you can imagine what the temperature was as you can hear. I will ask you if you please turn off your cell phones or at least put them on silent. May I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Chamberlain?
Here.
Trustee Ford?
Here.
Trustee Goldstein? Trustee Haber?
Here.
Trustee Hollinger?
Here.
Trustee Jamerson?
Here.
President Norris?
Here. All right, first order of business is approval of the minutes from the Board of Trustees meeting from February 5th, 2019. Do I hear a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any additions or corrections?
I saw some typos there. Hold on. Let me get that. You know, I'll just tell Jeff.
Yeah, if they're just typos,
Yeah,
that's
there
not
were just some typos that were in there.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other changes or additions? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
The minutes are approved. Now we need to approve the Board of Trustees minutes from February 19th, 2019. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Any additions or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Reports, Director of Community Services.
Friday was a mass mailing of Louisville residential properties for some guys in the new ordinance that went into effect for rental properties. This is trying to find out who is actually renting or planning to rent. And so far we have one that's come back in a couple of days since the letter went out. And it's incomplete. It's still early, and we'll see how this works on the honor system. And secondly, former Caspi House on 25-year-old, we did sell. I met with the new owner only this block away or so. A person bought it and explained that the house never got an occupancy permit. Maybe some work remaining, but plans on obtaining the permit to finish the job, and I'll walk the house with him, with his architect, open out scope of work to see what's needed to finish it, and expect it to happen in the next couple of weeks or so. That's all I have.
Any further questions? And Henry?
The tennis court in that house, if it was to be requested today, would not be able to be built.
That is correct.
So, does any of that sort of renew if there's no occupancy permit, or the house did meet certain requirements before? Does that still stay in place?
I believe those would stay in place until such time as that building, i.e. the tennis court, is no longer connected to the domicile. When it's not attached, if it weren't attached to the residence as a living unit, then it would no longer be grandfathered. Council, you can correct if that's, well, council's nodding yes, so I made a correct statement. So the mere fact that it's empty when the building permit isn't finished doesn't mean you can get rid of it. Trustee Haber, do you have your?
Oh,
Well,
is that right?
are there any other questions? Plan Commission report? That's for the planning commission report. All right, treasurer's report, trustee Ford.
We have our representatives from JP Morgan with us this evening to review our investment portfolio. And we have two representatives. And if you'd like to introduce yourselves, sure.
Yeah, Danielle Driscoll, I've met most of you before, and welcome to the new members. And my partner, Mike Kearney, who you guys haven't met before, but he just sticks around Chicago. I get to venture out into these lovely suburbs. So he's going to start off with just an overview, and then I'm going to go through the portfolio.
Thank you for having us here tonight. We certainly appreciate the opportunity to work with the village on this fixed income investment portfolio. I thought in general we just have a few comments about the economy over the last couple of months or so, and then go into the more specifics of the current holdings of the portfolio. A lot has changed, I'd say, in the last 3 months regarding the fixed income economy. Number one thing, the government ended the shutdown, and also mainly Chairman Powell has come out and said he's being more patient with rate hikes going forward this year. There have been concern that the Fed is going to raise rates too quickly. He has come out recently and said that he's going to be very patient. There's no preset guidance. He's going to be very data dependent. So as of right now, what that has caused is rates to grind down a little bit lower. So,
How do we switch that?
Which one would you?
slide number 2.
No, thanks.
Yeah, just say next page. or-
You bet.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So with that change in forecast, fixed income markets reset. So rates have come down. Internally at JP Morgan, we've reduced the number of rate hikes that we have from this year from 4 down to 1 in December of this year. So how does that affect the portfolio? Is that rates have grinded a little bit lower to start off the year. So this slide number 2 here just gives us, it's one of the tools that we use when we're presenting and looking for ideas for the fixed income portfolio. I can direct you maybe to that 2-year treasury. You can see that current yield about 2.49 right now. And then you can see going to the end of this year, you see that projected going to 3.05. So again, this is one of the tools that we help looking for ideas in the portfolio. With that, my colleagues will just mention little ideas of current investments in the portfolio. We'll talk about a couple ideas that we've looked recently.
Thanks.
Yeah, would you pull the microphone a little closer?
Sure.
There we go.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm not going to go through the statutes because you're all familiar with what you can purchase. One thing I want to highlight there, though, recently, next page, thank you. You know, they've added the increased exposure to U.S. corporate debt, which when I show you the spreads among the different fixed income products that you can purchase, that is someplace that we maybe can take advantage in the portfolio. In the short end to get higher levels. I mean, we can talk to it. You can go out 3 years now in corporates, and you can have a third of the portfolio in corporates with state statutes. Okay. Did you have a comment, Chris?
No, I just.
Okay. You know, just briefly on corporates, U.S. corporate debt, this would be senior debt, A-rated or better. You know, corporates, granted they're not U.S. treasuries, but they're very, very liquid. I mean, I'm sure you all have your own investments. I mean, these are global, you know, corporates that have, you know, $1 billion in size. So you can get out of it, you know, with a phone call if you needed to. Not that we're talking about selling your holdings. So here's what we're looking at right now, and you can see on the 3 to 1 year comparison of what you can buy. You know, yeah, the corporate and commercial paper rates are going to give you about 25 basis points. Everything else is equal. This is the first time we're seeing a dip in brokered CDs where they're actually lower than treasuries in that short range. But I mean, agencies and treasuries are virtually equal, and it's crazy. You know, everything's equal. You know, it's very hard to sell things. So go to the next slide, please. Okay, here you go with the 3 year comparison. It gets, you know, you can get a little bit, you know, crazy going out here. treasuries going out are going to be the lowest yielding, but then you pick up again in the corporates, which we added one piece this year. Taxable munis, if they're around, that could be a value, like we did in Oregon deal today. It was maybe, in the second year, it was plus 30 over the treasury, so that's a good pickup, 30 basis points. Trying to get your hands on that is tough. So I'm hoping we're going to see more new issuance of treasury, rather taxable debt. Next slide, please. I mentioned commercial paper. You don't have any. You have never had any with me. The problem with commercial paper, I'd rather have you buy senior debt personally than commercial paper. And the other problem with commercial paper that I see is that the minimum is $1 million. So you have a big chunk of your portfolio in one thing. And we try, to keep it like at 500s. So, and some of the programs are 5 to 25 million. The only reason they have JP on here is because we're $1 million. Okay, next slide. Okay, so here's the portfolio. We've increased your portfolio. You added money, Hal. You gave us another, $4 million, I think. So we're up to $11,050,000 in maturity value. Let me just slide here, because
Danielle, if I could just comment here, this is part of the consolidation in the cash management, where we took what was a savings account and moved it to our investment account so we could get a better return.
I can't see. Okay. And this is in the report that's in the back after tab 1, that is a more in-depth look at your portfolio. But just a brief overview. I mean, you can see that you're basically in 68% CDs, 10% taxable munis, 9% corporates. You still have that treasury and a small piece of agencies. We really lucked out because when you had this money in December, I think we added it, November, December, we were able to get some very attractive rates in CDs. Those are not available today. We were able to get 3% on 2-year. Right now, 2-year CDs are 265. That's how much rates have come down since December. So the portfolio looks good in that regard. Let's see. The duration of the portfolio is 1.02 years, with an average maturity of 1.1 years. So we've managed the longest bond in the portfolio, I think it might be December of 19 or December of 20. So we've shortened the portfolio considerably, which was our goal. If you remember last year, we were trying to shorten it, so we did. And the overall yield is, where is it? Where is it? Oh yeah, 2.605 is your current, oh no, yield to maturity, here it is, I'm sorry, 2.627 is your yield to maturity on your portfolio right now. One thing we've been doing though, as things mature, if you could switch the slide please. As things mature, we had some very low yielding items in there, whether they're old CDs, the treasuries, etc. So we're replacing them with, obviously we had a year of interest rate hikes, so the portfolio is looking good. So we've got the portfolio yielding 262 with a 110 effective maturity, and we're beating the benchmark, which is nice. The treasury at a 254. I remember when I was here last year, we were a little bit below because we were just in that flux of things moving. So I think it looks pretty good. We've got 51% of it maturing in less than a year, and 49% maturing in that 1 to 2 year range.
And 2 points of clarification. We combined an old Wells Fargo portfolio, and we moved securities over. And that really had a negative impact on your portfolio. Do you feel that we're just about finished with those?
Yes.
Because we're not going to sell, we were going to let them roll off.
We're totally, you're gonna, once that treasury is, we have 2 treasuries, I think, left. Once those are done, everything's pretty much done. I have the Wells portfolio that I moved over here. And then that's it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Because we were going to we weren't going to sell, we were just going to work out if we
Right.
let it roll over.
Because you guys had several little teeny pieces of things, like you had 10,000 piece of this and 90,000. So we just let it, accumulate and bought larger size. So I think, I don't know, I kind of think it's a nice portfolio.
And in the future, as you talked about the corporates, and we look at the little pie chart here, would we expect to see more corporates in the portfolio? Over
I would
time,
like to add
over
more
next year?
corporates. For example, we were looking at some corporates for another portfolio today, going out to July of 21. So what, 2.25 years, we're looking at a 307 yield. That's not too shabby, I think if you can get 3%, I'd love to see this portfolio at 3%. We'll have to see.
Thank you.
Okay. And then finally, the last thing, if you could flip another one,
Do you have a question on corporates?
Oh, go ahead.
I'm not very big on financials. My level of knowledge is little,
Okay.
but in 2008, what happened to corporates?
Okay.
Versus compared to treasurers or something else?
Okay, well, first of all, everything paid. Now, you remember in 2008 is when they issued insurance corporates. They were FDA insured. So that was a great gig if you could buy them. No one would buy anything. If you want U.S. Treasury, Treasury bills were negative yield. So you had to pay more money than the money you were going to get back. So corporates would have gone down in price. They were yielding, very high, but that was a period of, things really started to stabilize within, I would say, 3 to 5 months, where the Fed started getting their things together and things shook out and there was normalcy back in the market.
I should rephrase my,
Yeah.
in a market which that is not something anybody wants to see again.
No.
How would we have done if we had treasuries, as we are mostly invested in now, versus changing to a greater percentage in corporates if we had a recurrence of that?
Your portfolio would have gone up a lot in value. Okay, if you were to reinvest in corporates at that time, rates were lower, but higher than they are today, back in 08. Overall rates were higher.
Maybe I'm not making myself clear. One of your recommendations is to increase the percentage investments into
yes,
corporate,
yes. Mhm.
correct?
Yes.
Reducing our percentage and other relatively
Mhm.
stable. Okay. If we have another downturn in the market similar to 2008,
Mhm.
would that have been, in retrospect, a good decision or a bad decision?
It would depend on each individual security that we hold. Obviously, if you're stepping away from treasuries, taking on more risk for credit, you're going to get compensated with more yield, but you're going to take on slightly more risk for the underlying credit quality of that particular corporate bond.
So the risk is higher in corporate.
Oh, yes,
It's
definitely.
slightly more.
It starts at treasuries, goes to agencies, CDs are FDIC insured. But every single corporate paid, they paid interest, they paid, they paid principal. Commercial paper froze. That's why I said I'm not sure if commercial paper is for you, but I wanted to show you the levels. Froze where they got paid. It was just very hard to liquidate it if you needed cash. Banks closed their doors. Everyone got paid as long as you were under the $250,000. And we had many banks close.
If I could add, I think when you're in the short end, it counts that you get paid. The fluctuation in value is the fluctuation in price gets so minimal at the short end. So if you're talking about losing money or a negative rate, that The short end is where you really need to get paid. And that's what's important here. And yes, there's more risk in corporate, but it's the interest rate risk.
And I'm not
It's
really
really,
load up the truck either.
and then
I
the
think you have
agencies were
500.
what got creamed in '08 anyway. It was the housing market and stuff. So your question is theoretical, and it's a good thing to ask. Are we taking more risk in our portfolio than we ought? And the length of time, the shortness of time we're talking about, the limitations we have on maturity it makes the risk, I don't know, very comparable almost, to a treasury because you're in such high quality bonds.
And then, when we look at that comparison of the 1 to 3 year asset classes that you can purchase, that these statutes allow for, that's a moving target, and that changes. Every time I've come in here, that's been different. I mean, at one point, taxable munis were very high, and corporates were very tight to every other asset class. So why wouldn't you go into a treasury? But if you're going to be able to pick up 10, 20% more yield overall, then why wouldn't you, at least look at it. And you have to weigh the risk and look at the portfolio, look at the buckets, look where your cash flow needs are. And that's what we do when we talk to Hal.
Charmaine, do you have a question?
And that may lead to what my question is. Can you give me a refresher of how we have gone about setting our goals and tolerances, and then for each year, how we go about setting our goals for the portfolio at that time?
Sure. Hal, why don't you take that? Because we work together.
For those who might not know, this is Hal Rosa, the treasurer, who's in a short time going to go into the Witness Protection Program, otherwise known as tax season.
Yes, thank you. I think your somewhat arbitrary of a year doesn't kind of apply. We're more on the investment cycle and maturities of what we own, and it's a fluid kind of analysis. I think given the conservative nature of our wishes and our village advisory, statement that guides our policy, we don't expand beyond what you've seen here. We actually, as Danielle said, just dipped our toes in the corporate water. I don't know, it was November, December, but that's the first purchase we've ever made in this, and I think the diversification will always be there, so the risk is really mitigated. And we wouldn't take a bigger position unless it really was warranted, but then you got to ask yourself, if it's really warranted, what are the risks? So I don't see that becoming a real cautionary thing that we have to look out for, because nobody up here is anxious to squeeze the last nickel out of a yield to put us at more risk. And there isn't that much of a spread. But to answer your question more specifically, I think that the team at JP Morgan is well in sync with what our risk tolerance is and the assets of the village. And therefore, we kind of have this conversation with each maturity and everything else. Mechanically, how it works is I'll get an email or a call from Danielle saying, hey, this was coming up in the next 15, 30 days. Here's what the market is. And she did mention that I think our timing was very fortuitous, and sometimes being asleep at the wheel is better than planning for it. We did capitalize on probably $3 million plus at one of the highest yield rates environments that we've had in 5 years, 8 years. So, it was just every suggestion that the team threw my way was kind of like, really? Okay. We're talking about 3.0s to 2.95s and 2.9s, and now if they're at 2.65, I'm a genius, I did all this. Really, but realistically, I think the JP Morgan team knows where we're at, and it has to be constant evaluation rather than an annual kind of meeting.
Yeah, it's
We don't recalibrate anything. because our policy doesn't change here. The only newness to it was these corporates. So does that answer more or less?
I think the answer to my question was, it's really more on a maturity basis.
Yeah, but, you know, something that's important, say, for example, if you guys were going to, you know, build something and this money was going to be used for that, then as soon as you know that, then we would just start dumping the money into, you know, that cash flow bucket that we need the money for. You know what I mean? We would plan for it. We do that a lot with, you know, municipalities where we do work on drawdown schedules. I mean, we could do something like that for you guys. And typically, we don't do corporates and drawdown schedules. We would only do treasurers or agencies, and, you know, maybe a CD if it fit, but usually it's specific dates that we want to match.
I think what I would only add to that is that we are constrained by state statute. And the statute really, it's very limiting in terms of what they actually can buy for us. And then the decision comes on the securities, and, you know, as Hal said, we've got a great team at JP Morgan, and we run these ideas past Hal, and the opportunities that we have with an organization like JP Morgan in terms of what kinds of things are brought to us is very wide and very good. There's great diversification in that portfolio. The portfolio is short, and it's been very successful for our needs here.
The investment policy that the village has recites the state statute. The pie that you see in the mix of securities, that's the universe for us. So the benchmark that you were showing earlier is probably the only benchmark we can measure against because it's short-term, it's treasuries. So in terms of the goal, we'd like to beat that benchmark. And the investment policy does, I think, I don't remember Chris exactly, but it has a maximum average maturity for all the issues that we have.
I have your policy
It's,
here.
I think it's just, I think the restriction comes in the amount of the corporates.
I think there is, but it's longer than we
It's
had.
longer than you go, it's longer than you go, and there's a percentage limitation on how much you go works in the investment policy. So basically, they're operating within the investment policy, and it's a village treasurer that's saying, based on what Danielle's telling me, what the market is in, I don't want to be out in the year right now. This is what you're seeing is all part of the strategy to be cognizant of what the market is offering right now, what makes sense to be. That's what really Hal does.
You know, the maximum maturity in your policy is 8 years.
I don't think we've been,
The single security.
I think at Wells, maybe we might have had something 4 or 5 years. Obviously, because we're still dealing with the maturity of that, but I can't remember that anything we've done is longer than 4 or 5 years in the past 10 years.
We should probably visit that 8 years.
Yeah, 5 is pretty standard in everything I've seen. Other villages and cities, et
Yeah, that's
cetera,
pretty,
across the nation.
that's pretty.
And given the yield curve, this is not my forte, but we can come in right on. I don't think there's any advantage to going out that long.
No, but there may be at some point, but not 8 years. You wouldn't do that with this kind of money. I mean, you just can't do that. I wouldn't sell you something 8 years.
Yes.
So-
No, we're lucky to have professionals who rely upon it, and bringing ideas to our treasurer, who then gets to, who then will review it. But the opportunity set available to us through JP Morgan is really.
The only thing I disagree with is calling it luck, because we looked and made a good choice. So it's clearly diagnosed to choose.
Not luck, it's.
You had a question?
Well, I have a question on something that's for later, but I don't know if are you going to go into anything?
I'm not.
Can I ask a quick question?
Oh, absolutely.
On page 6 of 30, you list all the positions,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of negative unrealized gains, which are actually unrealized losses. Can you explain how that happens? In a short, like, few sentences?
Sure.
I mean, there's a whole, you don't lose if you hold it to maturity, is that?
Right,
Absolutely.
yes.
So
That's,
because
if you
right-
sold it today, because they yielded less than the current
But
yield.
let me show you this Wells Fargo, for example. Well, look at the Wells Fargo, you have 227. That's one of the ones we inherited from Wells Fargo.
So you're gonna pass the losses off on them? Just kidding.
So that's a 1 1/4 coupon. Well, right now, the 3-month treasury bill is at, what, 240? So obviously, there's a loss, but you're gonna get your principal back plus interest when it matures.
Okay, thanks.
I have a comment.
Yeah.
Aren't there some corporate AAA bonds that are actually rated higher than U.S. Treasuries?
Yes, but you know what? They're also right on top of U.S. Treasuries. So you don't pick up anything. You really have to get, an A-rated bond. There are very few double in, what AAA bonds are there? Microsoft, I think, is the only AAA.
How about Apple?
Apple?
Apple might be triple by one service, but Microsoft is triple by all services.
Yeah, Microsoft's only triple by
Tiger
all.
Treasuries.
And, even, gosh, what's Walmart?
Walmart,
It's
it's double A.
by one. I
So
think
the
Walmart's
yield-
only double it by one.
So you're saying the yield is not,
Absolutely, to your point, because it's a triple A rock solid.
Yeah,
credit.
we would look at, if we were
Balance
gonna
sheet.
do that, then I'd look at an agency, so I could pick up a little bit more yield. And there are some folks that, double A's it. Some of the municipalities we cover, some of the larger ones. And there are very few, they're picking up very little spread over the treasury. So. There would be other things that we would sell you.
Are there any questions? Thank you very much. Al, do you have anything you want to add besides? Spending your time?
Anything besides what you're seeing here would be pretty redundant. I think we're kind of stayed with maturities. There's nothing really on the table. I know, Chris, we were watching the actual cash closely because until we moved everything over, we didn't know what was there because of maturity and what was yet to be purchased. So it was a little tight for operating funds, but I think closer we get to April or definitely May.
Yeah, May, you've got, your first maturities are in May, and then it's every month you have stuff coming in.
So the yield will probably go down as if the rates stay where
Yeah,
they're
we cleaned up some of the processes, and that's just the operations, in order to make that portfolio, make the information available to portfolio managers more timely.
Right, and just the mechanics of where all our maturities used to go into our operating account. And then we had to make the funds available for the team to reinvest it. Now it's all theirs, so we don't really have to go back and forth with it. We just have to, like Neil said, kind of budget out what we might need if there's any strong need of cash and everything's, and as she said, there's a lot of stuff coming due, so if we need it.
Yeah, what you should know is that we're now doing some cash projections along with budgeting, so that should be helping us in the future.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's where we need to stay close with you because, we're going to maintain an account, a balance of the checking account, the operating account, and make sure that we can move things to you when we have a surplus, and then if we have a demand, at least we have a sense of, that projected demand.
Chris, are you still looking at around 800 to keep in there? Is that our number?
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to the agenda, consultants, Walt Hamilton. Okay, village attorney.
I sent out to our trustees earlier the receiver's report for 2882 Rockland. And as the receiver indicated to us, their conclusion is that the house must be demolished. The report's been filed with the court, and they will argue the notion or the findings with the court on March 13. I don't know if the bank is opposed this or not, but as they've done in other houses in Riverwoods, they look at the cost of demolishing it and the land value on the one hand, versus if they spend all the money they need to spend on it, what would be the resulting market value to sell the house for. And their conclusion here, that they'll ask the court to confirm, is that the cost of remodeling the house would be very expensive. They wouldn't get the money back if they try to sell it. It would be very difficult to do. And therefore, the recommendation is to demolish. petition for the senior group home. We have letters from residents, some materials and answers to questions from the petitioner, and we're going to try and find a way to assemble all this material. Ideally, it would be so that we could go over to the website and find it and click on it. I'm not sure if we're technologically up to that at the moment, but that would be ideal. If not, we'll find some other way to have at least a list of everything that's available, and we will make copies of they're available there in the village hall, of course, to the trustees and plan commissioners who can send it out by email.
Okay, any questions for the village attorney? Village ecologist is not here, police report.
I just have what's in the packets for the police activity for the year since the last meeting.
Okay, any questions for the chief? All right, hearing none then, moving on to information items. I think everybody is aware that the survey for engaged woods has been launched. I think we've been having a pretty good response. Let us just say all sectors are for, against, and relatively neutral. It has remained a fairly constant flow. I don't know how long that will keep up. We plan to keep reminding people this electric sign is up there. We moved it from Deerfield and Milwaukee now down to the other end of Deerfield Road. I know that the homeowners association, the Little League, has requested that the sign be placed there, so I need to speak with Catherine about exactly when we get it moved over, and if you still want to put it there close to the entrance or not. The postcards, I think everybody on the board should have gotten one. I know I did, so we mailed out to everyone. We sent emails. It's on the web page, and depending on how the response goes, we've arranged we can do a face mail blast, I think it's called. I may be miswording that, but basically send it out to every Facebook account within 2 miles, whether they're following us or not. So it's just a matter that if you're signed up for Facebook and you're geographically near us, you'll get the word that it's out there. So if we don't think we've been getting enough responses, we can do that as well. For the most part, I think the written comments that people have made have been very reasonable to give you a good idea of why the people are thinking what they're thinking. So the board all has access. I would ask you to go and visit that. We can have reports that we'll be providing later. Right now, I'm not saying anything about which way it's going or anything else, because I don't want to be accused of biasing it in any way or having a herd mentality that everybody wants to go with the winner or whatever else. So I'm just encouraging everybody, please tell everyone you know to go fill it out, because we want to know what people are thinking. Chris?
Response rate. Do we have a lot of responses so far?
Right now, we have over 60 responses, so that's not too bad for this early. As I say, it has been remaining constant. I thought there would be more of a drop-off, and it's really remained fairly constant, about 15 to 20 a day since we opened up. So I'm feeling fairly positive that it will keep up for a while. But if it drops, we'll blast people again, and which I hope will help. We determine how we can write responses to some of the questions that appear. People have asked for additional information, such as, will this cause us to increase taxes, etc. So we will be able to put that response in there, where it's a simple fact as to that we projected, etc. on that, so that we can answer some of the questions that have been raised. So the fact that that'll go out and will alert everybody that signed up for it, and in fact we put out additional information, hopefully will prompt people to, again, continue to visit it, try to talk their friends into going, and express their opinion as to what they do or don't want as far as what we're doing here, And if something is done, just why it is they would like done. And again, I'm very encouraged so far with how it's working. I did put in a schedule because we are obviously under a fairly tight schedule here. The survey will be closing March 16th, which is a week from this Sunday? No, Saturday. And then we'll be able to get fairly instantaneous reports. We'll report to the board on the 19th. And obviously that will be somewhat open, but then I think we want to talk about having an open meeting. Is there any feeling from the board? Do you want to try to make the 19th into the village-wide meeting? Do you want to come back on the 26th? Do you want to move the board meeting from the 19th to the 26th and have a community meeting on the 19th so that you have time to respond to it? Just any thoughts about what you're looking at? Mike, I see your lights on.
Yeah, I'm just wondering why we feel the need that we have to close the Engage Riverwoods on March 16th. If the responses of the reports are fairly immediate, I would be more inclined to let it run to the last possible date.
Well, Mike, we're pretty close to this. Well, let me back up a second.
I mean,
We were advised
second, then
we were advised to keep it to about a 2 to 3 week period, because after a while they just run out. If the board wishes to keep it open, we have the ability to adjust it, but I'm not sure that we would be gaining that much more. Come the 16th or thereabouts, we can revisit that, but from the advice we were given, I'm not sure that that would be the correct route to take. But that was the reason why, that we were told that generally a 2 to 3 week window was generally done considered appropriate.
My only concern is that there's a lot of snowbirds who might be coming back in March and may not even, know about this until the latter part of March when they return home. I don't know when spring break falls this year for kids when they go on vacation and stuff, but that may have some impact on the responses as well, so.
Daphne, you can probably tell us what's going.
Yeah, spring break is the week of the 25th of March, the very last week.
So, any comments on that from the board? Which one, Cheryl?
After talking with Mike Mixer Falls, we came to the conclusion that 2 to 3 weeks was a good period of time. I really can't speak for the people who are away for the winter about how they might get notified as far as how they choose to set up communications, because I think many families do it differently. And I have my experience in the past with many people who are snowbirds here is they also keep in touch with neighbors. If there's something going on that's important, their neighbors do let them know. I think it's very important, whatever date we choose, to be consistent and advertise that due date, because many times, particularly with surveys that take more than a couple of minutes to fill out, people will wait until the close date. So whatever date that is, and it doesn't matter if it's 2 weeks or 3 weeks or longer, they will just wait until the last date. So I think it is more important that we are consistent than the actual amount of time that we leave it open.
And of course, we'll all be open to any resident sending us communications at any point in time, up to and including the final vote. So it's not like you gotta speak by the 16th or you're ever foreclosed forever expressing your opinion one way or the other. So any other comments from the board? Okay. Is there any feeling between the 19th and the 26th of how you want to try to do an open meeting or a general
you definitely want another open meeting?
I thought that's what we had indicated we wanted to do. I don't think it would be a terrible idea after we engage the community, but I'm open to discussion.
I guess my hesitation is if an open meeting is going to be 4.5 hours, because some have in the past, and doing it on the same night as a board meeting is not a good idea. But if many of the views have already been expressed, if there's a way of allowing the residents for 3 or 4 or 5 minutes to present new ways of approaching it, and having it on the same night as a board meeting might be doable. I know you can't predict that, but.
Yeah, Chris?
What I might suggest we think about is the board meeting, and I unfortunately won't be at either, because I'm out of town. But if you choose to do this, I would suggest that you think about perhaps at the board meeting on the 19th, keep the regular board meeting on the 19th, report the results of the survey, and then indicate that there will be another meeting, there will be an open meeting specifically to talk about the results of the survey and to get more feedback on the 26th. So I would separate those two, but I would certainly report out on the 19th.
Yes, we would report out on the 19th. I didn't mean to imply that
Yeah,
wouldn't be
no,
the case,
that's
but
just saying.
it's just whether we should have a separate meeting or not. Any other ideas? Is everyone available on the 26th?
The 26th is
Well-
spring break. You're going to lose some people to that.
Well,
I agree with Chris.
Can you put that in the minutes, please? I'd like to see that. Trustee
Actually, I thought-
Chambers, Trustee Ford.
I thought I would do that just once while he was.
Thank you so much.
I guess the reality is that we're always going to lose somebody somewhere, and we've been trying for a great deal of time to allow everybody to express themselves. But short of going door to door repeatedly till we reach everybody, we'll never be able to reach absolutely everybody, even then they may be informed. So at this point, I will tentatively schedule us for the 26th for a meeting, and we can make a final decision on the 19th if we believe it merits that. I would imagine we will have a few people here on the 19th if we establish that we will be putting out the results of the survey that night, so we may be able to better make a decision. But my personal feeling is it's always easier to cancel a meeting than try to schedule one. So at this point, I would rather schedule a meeting on the 26th as well, and we go from there. Perhaps we have a meeting and no one will show. So, yeah, I don't think so either. Chris may be the only one that's smart enough not to be here. Okay, moving on then. The wine and cheese event, I shouldn't call it a party, I would try to be more precise and call it an event. All of you were there, so I don't have to tell you that I think it was a tremendous success, and that we should congratulate Trustee Chamberlain and Village Clerk Parks for having done an excellent job of organizing and putting it together. I've always said that if you want to have a drinking party, call Cheryl. She knows all about that.
We were doing so well.
Well, yours so early was just down the street from my house, so.
We weren't there the same year.
That's true. We were all speaking.
sure?
We were speaking of Latin in those days, and the alumni were in school with us, but that's okay.
So I have a little bit of information. So first of all, I want to let everybody know that our clerk, David Paris, did at least half the work. And if you enjoyed the flower arrangements, she did those herself. And she was quite a pleasure to work with. We had approximately 120 people from all areas of the village, all ages, which was really great. Every person that I talked with was was most of the people there. I brought up Engage River Woods. We had, not only did we have information about Engage River Woods, but we had step-by-step instructions that we handed out to people, as well as step-by-step instructions for signing up for emails, the Blackboard Connect. We also, as people came in, asked them how they heard about the event, and the top 3 responses were number 1, the Village Voice, number 2, emails, and number 3, signage, and everything else beyond that was just a few here and there, which I thought was really interesting. No one identified our village website, unfortunately. So I think that's very helpful for us to know where people are getting their information and perhaps what we need to work on. Daphne and I will be having a follow-up meeting to assess what went well, what we might do differently if we choose to do it again, and things of that nature. So if you have any comments for us, those are welcome.
Well, I certainly think we will do it again, because if we don't, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be unhappy, because I have an awful lot of people say this was great. I hope we do it again. So no matter what else we do, I do think these are good opportunities for community building. And again, thank you very much both for all the work you did.
So how
Next.
did that, I'd like to ask, how did that work out with Heinz?
Oh,
They were very helpful.
Oh, they did a great job.
The only drawback is that I had to go over the next morning and pay the bill in person. I'm not sure why.